why'd you start your firm? I know why I started. Why'd you start?
I say that my last firm made me the offer I had to refuse, right? Not the offer you can't refuse.
Okay.
I'd organically grown a PI practice over time at 2 different firms just by helping people. I saw an opportunity and, I took it, ended up growing that little practice. Again, not intentionally. It wasn't like we were advertising or asking for it, but as stuff would come, if someone makes a phone call, I do just like to help people. It was fine on the defense side too. I liked it the same way, hourly billing stuff. If somebody calls with a problem and you think you can figure it out, that's a great value to that person, so you take it.
Welcome to Above the Legal Limit. I'm your host, Justin Chopin, business owner, lawyer, dad, world's best husband, traveler, and adventure seeker. On this podcast, we mix business with pleasure. We'll dive into growth strategies, entrepreneurial adventures, the business of law, and prove that business isn't boring. So let's get ready because we are going above the legal limit.
Welcome to Above the Legal Limit. I have a very special guest here today, Lee Rudin from Rudin Law Firm. Get Rude.
That's it.
I did it right.
You can read it. It's easy.
Rude. Get Rude. So you're a lot like me. You're a law firm owner, and you hail from the defense, right? How long were you on the defense?
12 years.
Okay, so that's where I was. I spent about 10 years on the defense. I've been here for about 10 years. So this actually is our 10th year. And so,
congrats.
Yeah, thank you. I know we made it, right? So they say, I don't want to say this because it's, I don't want to jinx it, but they're like, most companies will fail within 10 years. So we haven't hit the 10th anniversary yet. So I'm like, yeah, well, we haven't failed yet. And I was like, well, it's early in the year. It's only January.
Well, if you fail, there's going to be a lot of people, debt collectors coming after you. You got a big office. You'll be all right.
Shit's really going to hit the fan. But so what you and I were talking about, because I do this thing where I just start talking, and then everyone's like, oh, shit, I guess we better record this. But we were talking about expeditiously getting our hands wrapped around the liens for clients so that we can close them out sooner. And so one of the problems I had is it seemed like people were waiting until the case settled to then be like, okay, let's go find out if there's a lien on the case. And that was just giving horrible results. Like if you ever if you just want to troll me, like you can go to our Google reviews and you can go look at like our worst reviews. And I guarantee you there's like a mix. There's like a third of them are just like completely insane. Some of them like aren't even clients. They're just crazies. They're just like, I hate this guy. I'm like, sorry.
I saw his commercial. It wasn't good.
Right. Yeah, right. Brad Eggenberg had to deal with that. Poor Brad was like, people are like, he's not even working for these people and they're giving him bad.
No, but at least he
feedback.
made fun with it.
Yeah,
right?
he did. I saw that. But then like half of them are this situation where they got a really great result, but closing them out took longer than we wanted to. So here's what we did. First things first, you have a 30-day window. So we have running reports on settlement reporting. And so in our document management system, when a case settles, the phase changes into settlement. And then we run reports every Monday on an aging system. And so if you're like +1, like you're in trouble, right? Like you're 31 days, like there's something going on. So that we did that because I think the metrics keep people, at least we're talking about it in the open. Like I'm going to call you out on it. The second thing, we tasked one person with this job so that I no longer was having to ask 4 different people. I know her name is Marjorie. She's lovely. Her job is to find the liens, and by sort of centralizing it into one role, that sped things up. And then the last thing we did was like, we are not waiting until the case settles. By the time the case settles, we should be done with all of this.
What do you do for negotiating them, right? Because sometimes if you want to get them down, you have to present to the insurance company, hey, this is where we ballpark think it's going to land if you want to get the reduction for the client.
So I've done it a few different ways. Sometimes I'll tell the client, hey, look, I'm going to work with you on trying to get these negotiated down, but I can't put a timeline on that because I can do a lot. What I can't do is make a government worker like sit down and do their job, right?
That's
like
right.
I can't go down there and like
or answer
respond to my email.
Yeah,
right? Like,
return my phone call, please.
Exactly.
All 6 of them.
Exactly. So what I can do is I know generally that your lien is X, okay? Or I know it is like $5,000. I know your lien's $5,000. Let's do this. I'm going to hold $5,000 in trust. We're going to give you the remainder while I continue to work on trying to get these reduced, and then we'll do another sort of closeout procedure where I will show you like, okay, it was 5,000, I got it down to 3,000. Here's the check we sent to them for 3,000. Here's a check for $2,000 more to you. That's the only other thing.
Or give them the option. Hey, if you want all that money that you're entitled to,
that's fine.
We'll pay them all. It's not. We don't get anything.
It
out
doesn't
of that,
matter
right?
to me. Like it's not in my account. It's in a trust account. The interest earned on the trust account actually funds a lot of really great programs in the state of Louisiana that helps teens and homeless. I mean, they do.
But not this.
Many things. Not this.
Right, not this building.
No, it's fine. It's all right. Like I can wait.
Right.
But so yeah, we can give them. We did that with Hurricane Ida. So in Hurricane Ida, we would get these like tenders. And so I would say, look, it's up to you. This is like a pretty small tender. We can just hold on to it and we can wait or do it all at the end. Or if it's more, and usually it would come down to like, what are the costs, right? So if I already had like $5,000 in cost and it's a $5,000 tender, I would usually say, why don't you we'll leave it in trust and I'll just, don't worry about it. I'm not going to do a closing and give you a penny, right? Like, it's rude.
And I'm not going to take my money first.
Right.
I'd
and
rather there be some
I don't
sort
like to do that. Right. So, but sometimes we get a tender that's like $100,000. So then we would say, well, no sense in waiting. Like, let's just get you paid and let's move on. And then we'll continue to work on the background.
Yeah.
So we do that. We did that more during the hurricane than we do for our PI work. But yeah, those are the options, but it stinks no matter what you do.
Are you using any companies, like any vendors to help negotiate the liens down?
We have, in the past. I thought somebody Armando put us in touch with another company, and I can't remember the names. What we'll do, because we just, like we get bombarded with these companies all day long. Like everybody's trying to sell me more.
I've got one that's decent so far.
We do test runs, and so what I'll do is sometimes I'll be like, okay, we're going to give you one, and I cherry pick it. And I have my paralegal, my attorney, whoever's like quarterbacking this issue, I'll be like, you report back to me on how this is going. And then they'll say like, okay, it was good or it was okay. So we've done it in the past. I don't know where, it's actually a good question. My director was kind of working on this. So we were trying out like 3 different companies. I don't remember where we left on that. So a lot of times we do a lot of this in-house.
You guys negotiate them,
yeah,
right? You have somebody going to collect them, but that person's not negotiating the liens.
No. Her job is complete back of house.
Got it.
Only thing I want her to do is send off and to get the liens in. Because I don't want her bogged down with anything else.
Sure.
And as you said, like our advertising, right? Like we're very passionate about this idea. Like we do not use case managers. And so I know
that's your unique selling proposition.
Well, that's right. So what's your unique value proposition? That's what it is. So everyone's like, are you worried people are going to be annoyed? And I was like, I hope they are. Because if they're annoyed, it means they're listening. I was like, look, if you get annoyed,
stop scrolling. Right. That's good. Right? That helps.
We actually, so this happened when our buses, we did, like no case managers, and somebody called and like chewed us out. And everybody was like, "Oh my word!" And
clutch those pearls,
right?
please.
I couldn't have been happier. I was like, "Good, it means it's working." I was like, "I'm okay." And she can hate me, and that's fine. I'm okay.
My dad asked me. He saw some of the ridiculousness on social media, and he's like, "Your reputation." I was like, "Dad, what reputation? Nobody knows me."
Yeah.
Like if they stop and they look, then at least they're stopping and they're looking. If half of them like you, half of them are going to hate you.
Half of them are going to hate you no matter what.
No matter what.
Right.
Give them a reason if you want to give them a reason. But
you could just stand up there and say, "I'm a plaintiff's lawyer and I hate insurance companies," and they're gonna hate you for that.
I never. Yeah. Look, this is not me. Like I'm not somebody that's a troll on the internet.
Right.
I don't understand what prompts somebody to respond to an ad or anything else. Like what caused you to stop and want to comment on this, especially with the vitriol that you're coming out with?
It's
baffling.
They get real mad about it.
You could say they got rude.
They did.
That.
You know what? You empowered them. So
my messaging must be working. That's right.
Take the good with the bad.
That's right.
We on social media marketing, we learned pretty early on targeting. So when the Hard Rock fell, we ran Hard Rock ads, and
they must have loved you.
Oh my God! I mean, I spent more time deleting hate comments on Facebook than anything else. They were just like, "You blood sucking." I mean, something's like cursing me out. You're the worst. And
you should have responded, and then it would have fired up the algorithm.
Right,
and then your ad would have pumped.
You know, but that was a long time ago. You know, we got out of the hard rock fast. Once I started noticing some trends. I was like, I'm done. I don't want anything to do with any of this.
I had a guy early on in the firm. He's calling me a bottom feeder, and then he called me an ambulance chaser. I'm like, ooh, I got to record content on those two themes.
Bottom feeding ambulance chaser.
Well, I did an ambulance chaser. I siloed that issue, and then I said bottom feeder. Wait a minute, we're in Louisiana. All the best things are bottom feeders.
Right,
if you don't like it, get the hell out of here.
Shrimp. Yeah, what are you saying? Crabs,
crawfish, catfish. We're all bottom feeders. We're 8 feet under sea level. Come on.
We're like in the 50th state of America. Like this state is on the bottom.
Why don't we improve our education and our criminal justice system? Like maybe we'll do a little better.
I think so too. Yeah, hey, well, look, I sent around. You know, we saw the Frozen one. And then I saw we saw the Christmas one.
Elf did well.
Elf
got some good eyeballs. Yeah, I'm going to do a Bobby Boucher in honor of the Super Bowl coming.
Okay.
I'm recording tomorrow, so I got a bunch of costumes.
I was going to say, so all right. So how does this work? Did you have a Frozen costume?
I did not.
You did not.
I don't want to reveal all the secrets, but I have ideas.
Like you don't have to review secrets or reveal secrets.
No, I come up with ideas. I have a company that I work with that does social for me.
Okay.
They usually generate some ideas. I don't usually like them, and then I rewrite them myself. They get the creative juices going, and then I discard them and do it myself anyway.
We do this a lot. So you can't see, there's like people behind the camera here. They're hidden, right? So
Where?
Melanie will be like, you wanted me to roll on the ground? You wanted me to roll on the ground, and then like something was going to pop up after that. And I was like, I'm not.
It was a trending reel.
It was a trending reel.
I'm your man.
I was like, I'm never going to roll on the ground for anyone. I was like, for my kids, I would roll on the. But you know what? Even if I were home playing with my kids, I'd be like, hold on, I gotta change clothes.
Yeah, teach
I'm not
them
gonna like roll on the ground in my suit, right?
No, you got other suits. You'd be fine.
I was like, so I'm never gonna roll on the ground. So I was like, we constantly go through this. There was something something recently y'all wanted me to do. I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
I did the
worst.
I did the
hardest.
opposite.
I'm the most challenging. I have to be like the most challenging because I was like, no, what else you got? They're like, say this thing for Valentine's Day. I'm like, no. What else you got?
Well, that's good. At least they're giving you something creative to go with. I was the opposite. I would get this kind of cookie cutter stuff. And they said, look, we do a Mother's Day post, we do this. I'm like, we're not doing a Merry Christmas post. I'll get dressed as Santa. And I'll do a Valentine's Day post, but I'm going to be Cupid or wearing like a stupid, Valentine candy thing because I just would rather be different.
Yeah.
Right? Why are you going to stop at my post if Chopin Law Firm and every other one's like, Happy Valentine's Day, Happy Valentine's Day. So
well, and that's those little static things that they put out. They're like, from all of us here at the Chopin Law Firm, have a wonderful and safe Valentine's Day. I was like, oh, Jesus, give me a break.
Yeah, please.
Like, this is like, I would rather you have not spent the 20 seconds on whatever Canva or whatever software you use to create that. I would rather you have been like, Justin, I was going to do a static Valentine's Day post, but actually got drunk instead of being like, you know what? Good for you.
I gave them the time off. The AI got a time off instead of creating this.
Give yourself a round of applause.
Yeah,
I don't think it's driving engagement. It's not real content anyways.
It's just filler.
It is. It doesn't do any good. So I try not to be like ubiquitous in our content, but I am like a total stick in the mud at the same time.
At least you're doing it, right? There's a lot of lawyers in our position. You've got the podcast, so you've got ways to generate the content. There's a lot of people that don't want to do it at all, and so the feedback I get from my company, from talking to LeDuc, it's like, it's pulling teeth to even get them on the camera, even though they're used to being in front of people and like to talk.
I had to eat a lot of shit when we started doing it because there are a lot of lawyers out there that are like filming in their car, right? And they're like, 5 tips. So actually, I do that. I say this, but actually, one of the guys that I'm thinking about has really great content.
Is it? I know you're talking about Jefferson something.
He's the guy who's always like, how to effectively.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's all in his car.
I can't make fun of him because it's actually really great content.
He's also one of like the big lawyers personalities on social media from all that. So anyway.
But I mean, but still, like, I don't. So what is this? So you're on social media, but you're not doing the content like this. Like, why does everybody film it in their car? Because I'm like a little too old to understand this.
I don't get it, and also like are you driving?
Like,
what are we doing?
The TikTok reels or whatever, they're all in the car, and so this is where my brain works is when I'm looking at them and I'm like, wait, are you in the passenger seat or the driver's seat? Because the image is reversed. And I'm just sitting there like, I'm not really watching the reel. I'm really just trying to wrap my head around like, where the fuck is she sitting in that car?
Did you go
the steering wheel's on the wrong side? Is she in England? I'm like,
Did you move to the passenger seat just to record this, or were you like at a red light and you had an idea and you recorded?
Right,
it?
or there's like the two kind of I don't want to be rude, but the two kind of gross women that are like eat, they have like the thing set up, I guess the camera's set up, and then they eat the food. You know what I'm talking about. And they're just like in the car. And I was like, you're eating pancakes in your car? I would say if somebody started eating pancakes in my car, I would have a nervous breakdown. I'm like, I would pull over and like throw them out the car.
Even your children?
Absolutely, my children. My children know that they are absolutely not allowed to eat in my car.
They would tuck and roll.
Exactly.
They would tuck and roll, even in a suit.
There's one thing that my kids are allowed to have in my car, and it is a trick I learned from Adam Sanderson, so one of the lawyers here. So early on, when he's got 3 kids, I've got 2 kids. They're about the same age. I pick up the kids after school a lot, and go home. And we don't have this issue anymore because they're like 7 and 8. But when they were in that 3 to 5 range, they just wail the whole way home, because they're tired and they're hungry and they're thirsty, whatever. So he says no. I was like, what do you do? And he's like, you just give them a dum dum. I was like, that's it? And he goes, yeah, you just give them a dum dum. I was like the little tiny little. He's like, yeah, just the little ones, nothing big, nothing fancy. And he's like, they can't scream if they're sucking on a lollipop. And this changed my entire like parenthood, right? So now, like I have, because I'm old now, so I have like a big car. And I spent my 20s and 30s in like convertibles, and now I have like the largest car you can buy on the open market. And so I open it up and I have like a huge thing of Kleenex and a gallon size Ziploc filled with Dum Dums. And they know when they get in the car they can have a Dum Dum, and then the music's playing. There's like silence generally in the back, and that is what they. But even still, they're in deep shit because every time I go back there, there's sticks everywhere. And my daughter will do this thing where she'll like take her like stick and then she'll shove it in
the crevice,
in places where my hands, like my adult hands, do not fit. And so, anyways, that's it. You have kids?
2.
How old are they?
5.5, 2.5.
Okay, so you're in it.
I'm in it though. It's like the Thunder. Well, I hope we're almost out of the Thunderdome, but like we're still very much in it. But I do
the Dum Dums. The Dum Dums.
We do Dum Dums.
I made a mistake once and did Tootsie Pops. That's too much.
Not good.
Too much. Too big. Like my kids still like, it was years ago. My kids were like, well, how come you never get those big ones? I was like, because it's like a 500 calorie.
The lollipop wouldn't be the deterrent. I just don't want them chewing on the Tootsie Roll at the end.
Yeah,
right? Like the blow pop. Like I don't want you having the gum. Have the Dum Dum. Watch Bluey on the phone for the 12-minute ride. Just don't scream. Let me take the work call or whatever it is.
Right.
I don't like. The one thing people are like, what could you improve? What would you do if you could do anything? I'd be like, I'd take the phone and I'd get rid of it.
Yeah.
Because I hate that I'm on it all the time. Like I hate that if I'm inattentive to the kids. Like I don't want to be this way.
No, I don't want to have a phone call in front of my kids.
No,
well, because it's not one. I can't listen to whoever I'm talking to. Like if my kids are in there and you are calling me about work, everyone is getting 30% of my attention. I don't know where the other third is. But I mean, like basically my kids are like distracting me. Whoever I'm talking to, I'm like, huh? Yeah. And then and the rest is just not productive.
But it's the lifeblood of the business. It's in our business, right? So what are you to do?
Yeah, no, I agree. Look, we were talking about this earlier, when I first started practicing, the iPhone hadn't debuted yet. And
you're dating yourself.
I know, but it was glorious. It really was.
Did you go down to the Louisiana Law Library to research and stuff too?
You say that, and my first boss read me the Riot Act because I was using Westlaw when I should have been we had our own library, when I should have been in our library using the Maritime Reporters. And I was like, well, you don't need to use these reporters. Like it's all
They're in the computer.
It's all on the internet here. Like I don't, and it was almost, it's really funny to roll your eyes at a Gen Xer. To be like, oh, you stupid kids! I was like, we're Gen X. Like, give me a break. Like, we worked hard. Okay, like I wasn't being lazy. I was just working smart on Westlaw that you paid for and provided. That has the Marine Reporters and have for several years now. So yeah, I did have to sometimes go to the library.
I remember one time they sent me down, and the other partner was like, do not do that.
Please don't do that.
Like, that is a waste of a day. A client's not going to pay for that. Like, do not do that.
Right, and that's the other thing. Like, you're just sitting there all day long. Like, you can't put me in like a dark, because the libraries are all dark, right? And they're very quiet because they're libraries. And so you're just sitting in this dark, quiet space, and you're like a screw-off 20-year-old, and I'm just like, that research project I'm going to be here for 2 weeks.
Yeah, why would you go back to the office? I'll just take a break, go get lunch. I'm
just going to hang out here. Yeah. I'm moving, get my sleeping bag, get my stuff. That's
awesome.
Use of time. So They want me to ask. They like give me questions. We're like, why don't you ask him why he started his firm? Why did you start your firm? I know why I started. Why did you start?
I started, well, I say that my last firm made me the offer I had to refuse, right? Not the offer you can't refuse.
Okay.
I'd organically grown a PI practice over time at 2 different firms just by helping people, right? People I knew that had an issue. It started with the lady that cleans my house, has been cleaning my house for 12 years. Helped her. She said, how can I repay you? I said, if your friend's getting little fender benders, they need help, have them call me. Well, then 1 begets 2 and 2 begets 4, and all of a sudden you've got a decent book of business. I took that with me when I left 2 firms ago to my last firm, which was 2 weeks before the pandemic. Shut everything down. God. All defense firms.
I only know your last firm, but I can't imagine your last firm that would work because I know who they represent, and I would think some insurers really they're like, oh hell no.
Well, I think it was fine in a small dose.
Yeah.
But I saw an opportunity, and I took it. Ended up growing that little practice. Again, not intentionally. It wasn't like we were advertising or asking for it, but as stuff would come, if someone makes a phone call, I do just like to help people. It was fine on the defense side too. I liked it the same way, hourly billing stuff. If somebody calls with a problem and you think you can figure it out, that's a great value to that person, so you take it. When you're doing it on the plaintiff contingency model, it can be very lucrative too. It could be very time efficient, right? Different than your widgets. You can help somebody in less time than maybe on the defense side.
Right. I mean, efficiency is key.
Right.
And in the end, it's not the process; it's the result. Right. So you're never going to do a research memo because no one's paying you to do a research memo.
Correct.
If you need to research something, it's very discreet, and you're like, I need to find out the answer to this, and like now. I don't know.
And it doesn't matter if you have a polished document to present to an adjuster for a report to run up the chain. So anyway, they came to me and said, at a year-end review, they're like, you're doing great, but this isn't our model, and so we want to limit what you can bring in, and we want to change the financial structure. And I said, well, neither of those is going to work. I was leaving for vacation 2 days later. The entire vacation in Mexico, I took phone calls with peers of yours, mutual friends we have, and said, hey, how do I do this?
Yeah.
I started as a hybrid, so I had some transitional files that were hourly, that were insurance files that I was winding down.
Right.
And then when I kind of saw the natural break, especially in the insurance work, I said, this is the time.
Go all in.
Because you can't say F the insurance company while representing the insurance company.
No.
And if that's,
we'll do it the right way.
Yeah, right. Well,
right.
Maybe.
I mean,
sure. But I wanted to make sure that I wound the files down in the way that I would want it for me.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You would never do that. Like we would, as lawyers, generally speaking, like most, I don't know any lawyer, maybe I do know a few lawyers, but most lawyers I know would never do that, right? We would always want to make sure that, we're when we represent, if I'm representing certain underwriters of Lloyd's, I'm representing certain underwriters of Lloyd's, and that's that, and that's sacrosanct, right? And if I'm representing Bob Smith, then I'm representing Bob Smith. But I get what you're saying.
Well, the other part of it too, is I have, and this is what I convey to my team. I'm like, when someone calls us, especially if they're calling us because maybe they saw an ad of ours or they're a personal referral, something about what we put out to the public or the reputation we have resonated with that person. Mm-hmm. So I want to honor that. I want to give them the attention they deserve, even if it's not a case that I can take on. I at least want to hear them out, refer them to someone that can help them, even if I'm not the one to do it. I'm not asking for anything in return on that, except that maybe down the road they say, that guy Lee or that guy Justin did me a solid. He didn't help me directly, but he gave me the person that did. So I felt the same way about my defense clients. A lot of them came with me after I left firm 2 times ago. That took a little bit of faith, and it especially took faith when I was leaving a firm to start my own firm. So they had to know, hey, we're good with Lee being the butcher, baker, candlestick maker, and we trust him enough that he's going to finish these files without the army behind him that you get at a firm.
Right.
And they did. And so I felt at a minimum I owed them, that sort of professionalism in closing their files out.
100%.
So
100%. I love that. Well, so your story and mine are pretty similar.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I had an opportunity, this lawyer that I knew called me up from Texas. He had 2 surgical premise liability cases, unrelated, in Louisiana. He's like, do you know anybody who could handle these? And I was like, no, I don't know. Let me think about it. And I was at a defense firm. It was very fancy. And somebody had called up. They were at a trampoline park and they broke their back. And the partner comes in. He's like, hey, you know how to do PI work. You've done some plaintiff's work. So because I'd done plaintiff's med mal and I'd done some other plaintiff's work. why don't you go ahead and do a demand letter for this? I was like, well, when did this happen? He's like, well, it just happened like last week. I was like, well, I wouldn't send a demand letter for this. He's like, well, why not? I was like, well, you don't even know what's wrong with this guy. I was like, I mean, look, breaking your back, if it's broken back is not a thing. I mean, it is, by the way, but I mean, it's not like people use words and they're inaccurate. So if it truly is like a fractured vertebra,
it might heal. He might be fine.
There's really nothing to do for it, right? It's gonna hurt. And it's gonna heal.
He'll have arthritis down the road.
Yeah, it's like it's not worth a tremendous amount. But if you're middle aged and you are falling with the enough force and velocity to fracture your spine, you probably need an MRI, because aside from the fracture, you may also have herniations, et cetera. So I said, but you don't even know what his injuries are yet. So it was like, you're putting the cart before the horse. If it were me, I was like, we need to be doing a few things. One, I'm going to want to line up my expert ASAP, because I know these trampoline parks. I know how they operate. It's like they're going to come at you with full force. And they fight dirty. Like I've seen them where they file suit against the mother, right, for indemnity for the hurt kid. It's just ruthless. So I said,
it's big
look, I get
fertile ground for plaintiff lawyers,
right?
So
I know, I was like, so let's get a good expert. We don't have to retain them, but let's identify what we're doing. Let's get the medical records that we have now. I was like, and then I really think we need to work on his treatment and get our hands wrapped around that. Trampoline park ain't going anywhere, okay? And I could see this very like white shoe, like commercial litigator in like an oil and gas firm, and he's like just sitting there and he's like processing it.
We can't do this.
And he was like, I'm going to refer this out. And he went and referred it to a competitor of ours. And, it's just this moment of just being like, screw this. And this guy, by the way, I like this lawyer a lot, and he's a great guy. And I really do. But I was so tired of having to, explain things to other people in a lot of ways. And so I called my buddy up, and I said, you know what? I spoke to my wife. We had a lot of really intense conversations about it, and she was pregnant, but we didn't technically have kids yet. if you want to be we were pregnant, but we did not have kids yet. And I was like, the thought was, we got to do it now, because once they're school aged, we'll never be able to afford to do this, And so she's a lawyer, and her career was just starting to kind of take off at that point. And so I called my buddy up and said, I know a guy who's gonna take those cases. And he goes, who's that? I was like, me. And he's like, your firm's gonna handle it? I was like, nope. The Chopin law firm's gonna handle it. So September 1, 2015, and that was it. And so it was 2 cases. A couple of little defense things that maybe I still had that I had kind of cobbled together when I was there. I started taking domestic work early on, which I hated.
You got to pay the bills.
It's low-lying fruit, right? When you're in your 30s, somebody wants a divorce. That was the joke I always made. I was like, everybody wants a divorce at that age. I mean, you can get them anywhere. So we'd be call up your friends, but listen, you
need a divorce.
You know she sucks, dude. Come on. $5,000. I'll do it on a flat fee.
PayPal, Venmo, whatever you want.
Those are my first few cases. Was those 2 from my buddy in Texas, and a couple of quick divorces, and that was it. And I was in my home office, and I wasn't there long. I actually got a call from Brad Eggenberg, who called me up one day. He said, "Hey, are you the guy who just filed suit on that premise liability case straight in the Eastern District?" And I said, "Yeah. Why? What's up? Are you defending it?" He was like, No. I want to talk to you about that. And he's like, "Why'd you file in the Eastern District?" I was like, because I know she's had 2 surgeries, so I know it's over $75,000. I know we're diverse. We're just going to remove it anyways. It's cheaper to file there. It's quicker, and I want to get paid this year, not in 5 years."
I like it.
And he goes, "I need some help." And so I met him. He rented me an office. He was starting his civil practice. He had already had an established firm. He was light years ahead of where I was, but he had been doing a lot of criminal work, and so we kind of helped each other out. So I was 1 month at home, and then by October I was renting a space from him, and he would give me a couple of cases, and pay me by the hour or something like that, while I kind of was starting to figure this out, and then within the year, we were in this space where you are right now, and we've since built out a dozen times. But I mean, and we're about to do another one. But but it's all starts the same way. It's like an idea, like an opportunity and an idea, and a little bit of bravery to say what what if it fails? And I think that's what makes us successful, because the answer is it can't fail because I can't afford it to.
Well, I say it the other way. I say you got to hike your balls up a little bit if you're going to do it. You also got to maybe make a bit of an educated guess, right? So you had it. I had the same thing. I knew what files I had. I knew the plaintiff stuff. I could kind of predict what's it going to return for, how long, because it could be 90 days, 120 days before you see $1, even on the stuff that you build day one.
Right.
Because by the time, unless you have money sitting in a trust account.
I didn't.
Right? So you bill it, or you work it, you bill it, they look at it. If they pay you timely, great. If they don't, maybe it's a 30, 60-day burn.
Yeah. All
right, now you have money to come in and pay. So you got to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
And it helps having a Brad or some other sage person say, hey, I've been down the road before, just so you know, here's the things to look out for. If you're ready, to do it.
Yeah, actually one of the biggest surprises that I never expected was how helpful the plaintiff's bar was.
Amazing.
We would never see this on the defense. You would never have another like commercial litigator call you up and be like, hey, I got this business. Can you help me sue them over a lease dispute?
It is such a rising tide lifts all boats group, especially locally.
Yeah.
I mean, when I told my insurance client one day, I said, why don't we all meet? You have all these firms in town. Why don't you bring us in roundtable?
Terrified.
Well, and just say to everybody, hey, I'm going to feed you all, but I want you working together, not fighting to try to get each other's business.
Yeah.
It's really trying to eat each other, and the shark comes in and just eats them all anyway.
That's right. But so right off the bat, I always tell people this when we hire, like we bring on a new lawyer, I always sit him or her down and I say the same thing. I was like, your first order of business is to make sure that everyone knows that you're open for business. If you don't tell them you're open for business, they don't have anything to buy from you. I was like, you need to be telling every person you know, hi, I'm Justin Chopin and I'm open for business. Because when I did it, my phone started ringing from people I haven't talked to in years.
Well, the thing too is they don't even know what you do.
Yeah.
Right? So the one thing that is different, when someone said to me, are you going to advertise? I'm like, in what business would you say, I'm starting a new business and I'm not telling anybody what I do?
Right.
Only being a lawyer in certain capacities do you do that. It's insane. And now obviously you can do it in different ways, but boiling it down to its most basic form is you got to tell people what you do, even if it's just in an elevator. Hey, I'm so-and-so, this is what, just try to help.
No, you can't, you're doing this in the elevator, right? You're like, right. It just doesn't work. We tell our guys this all the time. I'm like, look, you can't have your head down. You got to get out there. And advertising in any way. I mean, advertising is not dead. If anything, we are with social media, we are so bombarded with ads. I mean, shit. I mean, the e-commerce on Meta alone, like Facebook can sell me anything. I'll buy shirts that don't fit. I'm buying like gadgets, like the Facebook hack is like, you've been doing it wrong all this time. Things are coming in my door and I'm like buying them and it's all junk. And I'm like, my wife is like, well, you just go to the mall and buy a pair of jeans. And I was like, well, I know, but this ad was,
He said they were going to feel like sweatpants and they're stretchy.
I know.
Awesome.
I was like, I keep falling for these jeans that don't work,
Every
and they
time.
wouldn't let me return them. I'm like donating. I'm like constantly going to like Bridge House to like donate, unworn jeans.
It's like, God help me if I wake up in the middle of the night because I'm definitely going to doom scroll until I buy something.
I'm buying something.
Yeah.
And now, like
my eyes are going to burn in the morning too.
Steve Jobs' predecessor or whatever, Tim Cook, is that who it is? Whatever, I don't know. You can just double click and it lets you buy stuff. I don't even have to do anything now.
No,
with
I'm
the
not.
Apple Pay, I'm like, yes, I'm going to buy this. But so advertising's not dead, right? If anything, it's taken off in ways that people don't. I think they're actually less aware of the advertising now because it's so ingrained in what we're doing all day long.
You have to be better at it.
A billboard,
You have to be better at it.
Yeah.
I guess, especially like our industry, super competitive. Lots of people spending lots of money. So if you want to break through the noise,
right,
you either have to have a different message, a different approach, different style, like whatever it is. But if you're going to do the same stuff, we were talking about social media. If you can do the same posts as everybody else, why are they going to stop at yours?
A yellow billboard that says "Get it done," call Lee is not going to work.
No, it's funny.
If anything, looking like one of the whales only puts more cases on their docket, not yours.
Correct.
You're just benefiting their business, not yours, because people look at it and are like, whoever.
Why are you gonna hire big firm light when you can just hire big firm?
Right.
So they have to want to hire you because you're doing something different than everybody else, especially the ones that have been in the market for a long time. So it's going to be a funny arms race. There's another yellow billboard just came into town. That's a whole bunch of money.
I know.
Yellow and red.
I was pretty annoyed because our ad campaign that I'd been working for a really long time, working towards. It launched the same day that one launched. And I woke up that morning, I'll use names, I don't care. I'm like scrolling, and there's like Gordon McKernan's like all over my Facebook. And I just knew it. Like I got my wife, I like woke her, I was like, I guarantee you he just entered the New Orleans market. And she was like, why do you think that? I said, because not one time has this algorithm like ever fed me a Gordon McKernan ad. I was like, and I also know digitally that he's been spending crazy amounts in the New Orleans market without an office here. And we had all thought it was a little peculiar, but I was like, maybe it's doing, just to see what's out there. And so he had been ramping up. And so I turned on my phone. It was like New Year's Day, right? There's like a terrorist attack. And then there's this like law firm. And I was
Go drive down Poydras. He's got a bunch of billboards.
He's doing it.
I think that some of it probably aligned with the Super Bowl. He built up his war chest and said, this is a good time. We got lots of eyeballs down in the New Orleans area. Man, more power to him. Let's see what happens.
That's fine. Yeah, it'll be all right.
See what happens.
Yeah, we'll do.
Like, there's plenty of injured people that need help.
There are, right? I mean, so they even say this with Morgan & Morgan. Like in Morgan & Morgan, when they enter, which they've entered this market too, so get ready, right? And so when they enter a market, but they still only capture a small percentage of the market share.
That's right.
And so don't worry about that percentage. Worry about the other, 90%. Even if they are capturing 10% of the market, that means 90% of it is going a million different places. I think we are really on the cusp of a change in leadership in a lot of ways. Look at the major advertisers in this market. They're old.
Well, what did Brad say on his one of his ads that got him in a little hot water?
Oh, right?
Yeah. Talking about the dinosaurs. Look at the billboards.
So I like some of these guys a lot, but go look at the top 5 advertisers and go look up when they were born. Okay, so I think we're going to see, there's like what's it like Dumbledore's like a change of colors in order. Like I think there's going to be, in the next 5 years we're going to start seeing some big shifts in the market. Maybe the next 10 years. Unfortunately, what I think is going to happen, and I hope I'm wrong, I think it's going to be more national, non-local businesses coming in and buying up the market. So I think we're going to start seeing, some, not just Morgan. There's tons of other ones that people in New Orleans have never even heard of because we're New Orleans, right?
Well, they
That's
could
like
acquire. Look, unless they could acquire you, they could acquire me, and you just become the office of that place. There's a pretty well-respected lawyer out of Atlanta that just became the office.
I know.
She was on your podcast.
I know. Yeah,
right?
for Sweet James. I was really surprised by that.
I was too, because Jen Gord built up a really nice brand. And so, but the offer probably was one that she couldn't refuse.
Well, I brought on another lawyer you were just talking to before we started, and he asked me on like my first day, or his first day rather, he was like, so are you like looking to like, you build it up and then like sell it and retire? And I was like, what? Why would I do that? And he was like, I don't know. I was like, no, I don't ever want to do that. I was like, no, man, you're going to be wheeling me out of here. I was like, no, we're building something for generations here. We're not building it for a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
This is not a 5-year plan.
But
my 5-year plan's written out on my wall
I see
in the
you got
office.
lots of
That's
stuff.
a lot of brainstorming. A lot of brainstorming. We're trying to figure out like, what can we fix? So that's what we did yesterday. So it's only, I had to take a lot of it down, but we say, what is our 5-year vision?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay, where do we want to be? And so I'll start, and then the other guys are like, and so I'm like, and I'm an eternal optimist. So I will always have an optimistic view of the future. I'm like, we're going to be billionaires. I'm kidding. But so I do my 5-year, and then they say, okay, now that we know where you want to be in 5 years, in order to achieve that goal, where are we going to be at the end of this year?
What are the steps to get to 5? You got to work backwards.
So you got to, so what's 20% of that essentially? So what do we need to do this year so that in 5 years we can continue to build on this and be there? So we do that. We say it's our 1 year. And then from there we say, all right, it's the first quarter of this year. What needs to happen this quarter for you to achieve this? And what are the barriers from achieving these things? And so we go through like some of these these barriers and they're like, okay, so for this 90 days, this is what we have to accomplish. This is who's going to do it, and this is when they're going to do it by. And then we're going to measure the success in this way. Like how, so it's not, you can't just be like, make more money. Like, that's not it. It's going to be like, how will we know? Like, how will we know we've measured success? Well, we'll know we've measured success if we can say in 90 days that we've done like X of this. So that's what all the posters.
Mentality.
Yeah. And so it's good. Like, it's good to kind of spend a day thinking about the business. I know like Armando's group just did it. You know, when you have you're in a, I've been in your shoes. When I say this, I always tell people here, there's not a job here that didn't used to be my job, right? So I was the bookkeeper. I was the IT department. I was a good IT department, by the way. I was intake. I was the best intake specialist, and that's why I still live in intake because I love it. I was the lawyer. I was the paralegal. I was, you know, I cleaned the kitchen. I do the dishes.
Look, I think to me, that's the best thing you can do because A, it gives you an appreciation for all of it, but it also shows the team, hey, it's not beneath me.
Yeah,
and frankly,
right.
if I got to step in, I'm equipped to do it, and
So
I'll do
now-
it with you.
Yeah. So now when I want people to do things, I'll be like, look, I'm not asking you to do something that I haven't done 1,000 times. You know, and so so it's good. But it's good to take a day. That's what I was going to say. Like, it's hard, you know, to take a day, but it's good to take a day and to think like, okay, where do I want, you know, get rude. Where do I want to be next year? And what do I need to back out? I never did that when we were building. I just kind of made it up as I went along. And I think a lot of times you just kind of get lucky and reinvest, and it kind of like worked out. And funny at our meeting yesterday, they're like, one of the guys was like, well, I just think you keep doing what you're doing and, you know, we'll get there. I'm like, well, no, because these are some pretty aspirational goals. We're going to have to do a little bit more than that. I like it, but.
I said it differently, right? We're talking about, you know, how do you generate new cases? What do you do? We're talking about marketing. I said praying for referrals is not a plan.
It's not going to hurt.
If you think it matters.
But you might need to do some other things too.
Right.
Like,
right.
I would still pray. I still pray. I'm still just like, dear sweet baby Jesus, please let the phones ring, right? You know, and
hopefully someone likes me and they'll call me,
right.
please.
All the time, God is like, oh my God, with your intake, chill. You know, like I'm not a I'm Jesus. I'm not a marketing specialist. And so, but I agree with you. Like, you got to do more than that. Stumbling on it is good too. Like, better lucky than good.
Sure. But you know, making your own luck does help a little bit, and some of it's feeding the beast and making sure you're out there again, so people know who you are.
Yeah.
So they can call you, because if they don't know you, how are they going to call you?
They're not going to call you. So,
right.
Well, like I'm getting to this. Yeah, all right, I've got the this. I went on too long. I pontificated too long. Lee Rudin, get rude. Appreciate you coming on the show. Don't call him. I'm kidding. Call Lee. And great having you on here.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Happy to be here.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining me today on Above the Legal Limit. If you enjoyed the show and you want to hear more about business and law, hit that subscribe button. If you didn't like the show, keep it to yourself. Remember, there's no limit to what we can achieve. We will see you next week. Until then, even though we're above the legal limit, let's drive safely. Cheers, everyone.